Hello, and thank you for joining us for the KREM 2 News Week in Review. I'm Cody Proctor. Each weekend, we walk you through the headlines from the past week in the Inland Northwest. Let's get started with one of the biggest news stories of the past few days.
Both passengers I spoke with say they remember thinking this isn't the normal routine or route, but didn't think much of it at the time, assuming there was a reason for the change. Now, both passengers are recovering from a range of injuries.
For James McShane of Cheney, an ordinary Sunday routine came to a literal halt.
It was just a normal Sunday for us.
Pam Davis, McShane's wife, tells me her husband rides Spokane Transit Authority buses several times a week.
Called me and I could tell right away something was wrong. And the first thing he says is, "Don't panic."
She spoke on his behalf because she says his injuries made it hard for him to talk. She describes James was sitting on the lower level of the bus before the crash, and the impact was so hard he slammed into plexiglass.
And then they hit, and he didn't know, where he was, what had happened.
James suffered several injuries from the crash.
A police officer came in to give us the report and told us that James was actually hurt the worst. James, being the sweetheart he is, he said he was glad to know that he was the worst injured because at least he knew he was going to be okay eventually.
Pam says James has been living with chronic obstructive pulmonary disease known as COPD and neuropathy for years, conditions that make walking difficult.
I was terrified. The first thing I could think of is, did his legs get further injured?
She tells me she was especially relieved to learn James's legs were okay. Another passenger, Megan Hubbs, was riding on the upper level of the bus. Hubbs is a student at Eastern Washington University and rides the bus a couple times a month. She describes in an email to me, the plastic ceiling panel came down and smacked me almost straight on in the face. My nose started bleeding pretty bad, all over my clothes and face. The front window also sent glass flying back at all of us. Megan tells me she depends on the STA routes for transportation and will still ride in the future, but notes not on the upper level. Pam, James's wife, tells me he is still undecided.
Now, this is still an active investigation that we will continue to cover. We do also know the CEO of Spokane Transit Authority, Carl Otterstrom, did visit James McShane in the hospital. I'm reporting in the newsroom, Regan Gallo, KREM 2 News.
It's now been more than 24 hours since that double-decker bus crashed into this train viaduct in downtown Spokane. And while the scene is completely clear compared to Sunday, the investigation continues.
It shouldn't have happened.
We have fixed routes, fixed schedules they operate on, and this is the first incident.
But it did. Spokane Transit Authority CEO Carl Otterstrom explains what happened Sunday.
One of our double-decker buses heading back from Cheney to downtown Spokane, traveling off-route on Cedar Street, impacted the lower side of the viaduct.
A viaduct too short for the bus.
It sheared off the first 10 feet or so of the top of the bus.
The crash, says Otterstrom, sent 7 people to hospitals with injuries. STA is investigating what exactly happened.
At this point, there is no clear understanding of why the bus was off route, other than clearly the operator turned at the wrong street.
Here's what we know so far. The driver, who's been with STA for more than 4 years, is now on administrative leave. STA says they've also had training on the double-decker buses.
Part of the investigation will be understanding the extent of the training, exactly when it was, and how it relates to yesterday's incident.
STA also removed a video from online which appears to poke fun at people concerned about the buses going under downtown's bridges safely.
We wanted to make sure we're really focused on addressing the issue, being sensitive to the concerns, and so the best thing to do at this point was to simply take it down.
As for the rest of the double-decker bus fleet, Otterstrom says they will not be in operation during the investigation.
We also reached out to Spokane police, and they said they did do a collision report on Sunday's crash. In Spokane, Cody Proctor, KREM 2 News. All lanes of South Stevens Street were back open Tuesday night in downtown. That wasn't the case, though, around noon when a moving truck ended up wedged in this bridge right behind me. Just a block away from the crash, hairstylist Emily Custer says she's seen her fair share of crashes at the Stevens Street train viaduct.
I feel like it was last summer. There was a semi that hit and got stuck. Yeah, it was can opened from the top.
Another vehicle can be added to that list. A moving truck ended up stuck underneath Tuesday.
Well, since I've been here, it's at least happened at least 4 or 5 times I've witnessed, whether it's be car accidents or semis.
The bridge stands just over 11 feet tall. The truck managed to make it to about the halfway point of the viaduct. It took about an hour to remove the truck from underneath. The NSF was also on site, checking the damage done to the bridge and shoveling away some of the concrete that fell. According to Spokane city officials, city crews spent Tuesday fixing the digital ticker, warning drivers they're too tall to go under. But they aren't sure when exactly it was damaged and can't verify if it was working when the truck got stuck. The crash comes just days after a double-decker bus crashed into another train viaduct in downtown, which left 7 people injured. That investigation is still ongoing, and Spokane transit authorities pulled the rest of their double-decker buses out of operation while that happens. That investigation includes looking at the technology system on the bus. No one was hurt in Tuesday's incident. In downtown Spokane, Cody Proctor, KREM 2 News. As we go to break, here's a check of your forecast. Welcome back to the KREM 2 News Week in Review. It's been a busy week across the Inland Northwest, and we want to help you catch up on some of the stories you might have missed.
In a 5-page letter sent to the Shoshone County Board of County Commissioners, police chiefs from Pinehurst, Kellogg, and Osborne are laying out why they believe Sheriff William Eddy is unfit for the job.
In a letter sent last Friday, the Silver Valley police chiefs lay out 3 main reasons for the vote of no confidence: lack of communication, lack of administrative and budgeting experience, as well as concerns of decision-making, which they believe undermines effective collaboration between the city and county. Reportedly, the chiefs say these issues have led to a deteriorating workplace climate within the sheriff's office, which contributes to the loss of experienced personnel and gaps in training. Sheriff Eddy did not want to talk on camera for an interview, but he did tell me over the phone that the administration that resigned all did so before he took office except for one. He went on to say, "This reaction is what happens when you break up the good old boy system." Sheriff Eddy was appointed back in November after former Sheriff Holly Lindsay resigned in October. Since then, 2 members of the Shoshone County Sheriff's administration staff have resigned, with 1 other member resigning this month. County commissioners have also weighed in on the letter since it was sent to them last week. According to our reporting partners at the Coeur d'Alene Press, Commissioner Jeff Zimmerman says he is disappointed by the lack of professionalism from the city police chiefs and the lack of support for the county, especially when in his first few months as sheriff, the county has dealt with things like natural disasters and the active shooter situation in December, on top of inheriting issues like the jail, budget, and staffing. Zimmerman goes on to say, instead of offering an olive branch, they have instead brought accusatory statements that are based in opinions, not facts. It was unnecessary and an act of bad faith. When asked if any commissioners would meet today to talk about the letter, Commissioner Dave Dose sent me an email saying, in part, the sheriff's office and the sheriff do not fall under the board's authority other than in matters of budgeting.
Now, we did reach out to the Pinehurst, Kellogg, and Osborne police chiefs for comment, but we did not hear back. Now, we have the letter sent to county commissioners up on our website, krem.com. In the newsroom, Christian Garza, KREM 2 News.
Well, chants like "no ICE, no hate, no fascists" in our state were heard outside Ridgeline High School today in Liberty Lake after students organized a walkout in protest of ICE, Immigrations and Customs Enforcement. They say they hope their voices will be heard.
Shouts of passion were heard along East Country Vista Drive Tuesday morning.
People just like you and me are being taken from their homes, from their jobs, from their schools. They are being detained unlawfully and denied the very rights that our nation was built upon.
Ridgeline High School students noted it was important for them to plan this walkout, as today marks exactly 1 year since President Donald Trump's inauguration.
To show to our representatives, we are not happy with what's going on. We are not happy with the legal activity.
They say following the death of Minneapolis woman Renee Good, who was shot and killed by a federal agent on January 7th, they want to show their concern against current injustices happening across the country.
If there's injustice happening in the world, it's going to touch you eventually. Whether it not be, right now, it could be in the future, but it's going to get to everyone. So it's better to care right now and stand up right now.
But not all students I talked to were in support.
First of all, it's not going to really do much. We're only high school students and we're losing valuable school time.
Benjamin Miller says protests like this one are going to cause more tension.
We support ICE. We really do. It's just that there have been few instances, but there are more instances where ICE is doing their job correctly without incident.
Other walkouts also took place at University High School and Central Valley High School. Lewis and Clark High School had a walkout last week. Students tell me they hope today's presentation gives voices to those who may not be able to speak out.
For now, I'm reporting in Liberty Lake. Regan Gallo, KREM 2 News.
For Spokane South Hill residents, this open lot could be the new spot to shop for groceries. Plans just filed with the city of Spokane shows potential for a new grocery store built right here next to the car wash and gas station on South Regal. Now, it's still early in the process, but here's what we know so far.
Maverick, Mr. Car Wash, and the Home Depot could soon be getting a new neighbor. This lot is the potential site of a new grocery store on South Regal. A Spokane Valley-based architecture firm filed the pre-development application with the city of Spokane last month. The preliminary plans show a new 16,000 square foot store with an estimated project cost of $4.5 million. Plans also include 74 parking spaces with shared access drive between the proposed building and Mr. Car Wash. The application does not name the grocery store brand, but we did some digging. The Spokane County Assessor's Office records show this lot is owned by the estate of Spokane developer Harlan Douglas. The same name is also listed as the owner of the grocery outlet store on North Division. The architect of the project says the developer is not yet ready to disclose the name of the store, but we could expect an update in a few weeks.
Again, the project isn't approved yet, but we'll keep tracking it and let you know when and if it moves forward. Amanda Rowley, KREM 2 News.
Hello, I'm Cody Proctor. Thank you for joining us here on KREM 2 News. You're watching the Week in Review, where we bring you some of the biggest news stories of the past week.
It's been a long road to recovery for Bethany Presbyterian Church on the South Hill, but this demolition of its old building offers its members like Sharon Smith hope for the future.
But we haven't lost hope, and we've never lost our sight for what we need to do.
Smith is also one of the members of the congregation's Rebuild Committee. It formed after a fire in the church in 2022 forced members to close the church's doors. They've had to worship at the Knox Presbyterian Church as a result, and the old building was used as a resource for Spokane firefighters to use for training. Fast forward to now, Smith says they're eyeing a development on the church's campus, but it'll serve more than just its members. They plan to call it the Bethany Project, a $12 million community campus offering a small space for a sanctuary, leaving enough room for a community center with 2 apartment buildings alongside it. It will offer 22 units. Half of them will be opening up to low-income families through one of the project's partners, Thrive International. The other half will be offered to Spokane's Family Promise. a new space to advance housing for those in need, and the church's services.
We're having dialogue right now about what could be helpful and how can we walk side by side and help these people get their families safe and sound.
Smith says a communal kitchen, classrooms, and playground are also a part of the project. They're roughly $1 million shy of it being fully funded. A number Smith is confident the project will reach in the near future.
Next month, or if it's in 6 months, but it will happen.
After this week's demolition ends, Smith hopes the project will start construction and be complete by Easter of 2027. All the while, she's citing the congregation's faith and support from her fellow members of the church, hoping its followers will get to come soon.
There's a driving force. It's our faith journey.
Connor McAvoy.
It's a real thing to all of us.
KREM 2 News.
We'll take a listen and just take a look around. You can see how massive this turnout is for the annual Martin Luther King March and Rally. I'll step out of the way, give you an idea of what we're seeing here from our vantage point. I'm talking about thousands of people marching through the streets of downtown Spokane. Prior to this, they got an opportunity to congregate together with one another in unity. That's what this day is all about, honoring the legacy of Dr. King and promoting positivity within our community. So you can see the amount of people marching around, how many signs are out here and active. We got a chance to speak with quite a few of these people who came out enduring the cold weather to march these streets.
I think having my kids out here seeing the representation of what Dr. King did was a moment that we all wanted to share.
I'm the head of school at Spokane International Academy. We're a public charter K-12 school in Spokane. And this is what we're all about, providing opportunities for our students to learn and serve the community.
I'm really truly blessed that the city of Spokane is honoring a beautiful moment like this.
Everybody deserves a fair shot here and to live out the values of Martin Luther King Jr.
Again, you can just see how great of a turnout this is. The only advice I would have, if you've never been able to come out here and be a part of this march, this rally, and the resource fair that takes place inside of the Spokane Convention Center, put it on your to-do list. Next year, 2027, make your way out here, be a part of that community and experience it for yourself. For now, though, reporting here in downtown Spokane, Brandon T. Jones, KREM 2 News.
Welcome back. Before we wrap up this edition of the KREM 2 News Week in Review, we want to remind you, you can get the latest newscasts and weather forecasts anytime on KREM 2 Plus. It's free to watch and download for Roku, Amazon Fire, and Apple TV. Now, here's one more story before we go.
Running back Zach Charbonnet is having surgery on his knee. He injured it on Saturday, tearing his ACL, and now he is officially out for the rest of the season. Velus Jones has been brought off the practice squad to help fill his place, but this will also allow more attempts for Ken Walker. On Saturday, the fourth-year running back rushed for 116 yards and scored 3 explosive touchdowns. He will just be one part of the coordinated attack. Head coach Mike McDonald says the Hawks will have to bring this weekend against the Rams.
You've seen the results in the past X amount of weeks now of the result of, like, we always use a term, but really like stacking all those reps. I thought this is the most decisive he's ran up to this point, and as expected, you just keep getting better.
And a fun off-the-field question leading into Sunday. Who will raise the 12 flag before kickoff? This is Paul Allen in 2015 ahead of the NFC Championship game against the Packers. The Hawks' late owner raised the flag in all 3 NFC Championship games, and Seattle won each of those games. So will his sister, the chair of the Seahawks, Jody Allen, take his place? Or maybe the Seahawks bring back another Seahawk legend? Doug Baldwin was the flag raiser on Saturday. That was pretty electric. Or maybe the coach of the last 2 teams to make it to the Super Bowl, Pete Carroll. We'll find out soon. In studio, Drew Andre, King 5 News.
Thanks for joining us for the KREM 2 News Week in Review. Be sure to keep it here on KREM 2 for more news throughout the weekend. I'm Cody Proctor. Thanks for watching.